Hello, everyone. Jumping on here right now. I have been on orders for a little while away from home, so I haven't uh, been able to access my normal studio where I record videos. So I haven't recorded any in a little while, and I've got some questions starting to pile up on the channel. So I wanted to just take a moment and try to answer some of them. Um, when I first started this channel, it was pretty easy to keep up with the questions because I really wasn't getting that many. And I guess it's a good problem to have. I'm starting to get a lot more of a community, a lot more people responding. And so I, I'm trying to keep up with all the questions. Um, okay. Oh, we have a live question. Okay. Reserve Emmy career opportunities. All right. So, yeah, I have a list here of questions that have been asked, but if I see a live one, I'll answer that as well. So, reserve ME career opportunities. Um, I'm not sure what the exact question is there. Maybe you can elaborate a little bit. Am I active? I am an active reserve. So I'm on active duty orders right now. That's why I'm going live and not in my normal studio where I record these. Um, but I am. Essentially it's considered active reserve. So I've been in the active reserves for 19 years. Um, so reserve ME career opportunities. Um, just released. Do you have any new news on the new signing bonus that just released? Um, I don't. Which do you know which rating that's for? I haven't. The signing bonuses happen a lot, so I don't know about any specific one. Let me see if I have a question in here on the reserve. So there was a question about MEs, and this might have been from Carlitos Way PR. Is this one of the questions that I received earlier on that? Just a second here. Your ME question is, let's see here. Okay, yeah. Opportunities for ME reservists at a sector. That is also from Carlitos Way. That's one of the questions that I was going to get to. So, yes, that's a good question. So, typically, MEs work in PSUs. So, uh, PSUs are PSUs are their own boat, their own element in a sense. They run alongside sectors. Like where I work right now, we have a PSU on base, but they're not part. I'm part of a sector, but uh, the PSU is not part of the sector. But we more or less run alongside each other. We keep our drill schedules in line so that we have the use of the galley at the same time. But typically, PSUs run on their own, so their whole command is is run within that PSU. So they're a very tight knit group. Um, Now that being said, there are opportunities for MEs at a sector, absolutely, but you wouldn't be doing typical ME stuff that you would be doing in a PSU, if that makes sense. Um, it, there's a bit more variety though in that. So let's see. Okay, this is the first time I'm actually getting some more live questions. So that's kind of cool. So let me jump back to the top of my questions here, and then let's see. Can you speak on what kind of careers an OS can get if they choose to return to the civilian side? Okay, operations specialist. Um, a lot. I mean, you could, off the top of my head, I would imagine any kind of comms job. I mean, 911 operator, dispatch, things like that. Anything that involves collecting of intelligence or data for police department or the CIA, or that's kind of on the more extreme side. But the skill set involved in that rating, it's one of the higher testing, ASVAB test requirements on that is one of the higher ones. So I would imagine there's quite a bit of opportunity. I mean, just being in the military and having that as a background in and of itself is a really strong, um, makes for a good prospects for a job. So definitely has a lot of potential. Heard the Coast Guard is offering a $65,000 signing bonus. Not sure if certain rate. Oh, okay. Vance says that rate is offering 65,000 is culinary specialist. Okay, I didn't know that, so this is good. This is why I like having multiple people on here because I don't know everything. That's a pretty generous signing bonus. Now, I will say I never try to tell anybody that they should or shouldn't take a certain job, but just keep in mind when you see a bonus that's really, really good, there's probably a reason for it. And I do know that the turnover in that rating is rather high. So just something to keep in mind. Yeah, emergency dispatch for OS. Let's see. Would never want to be a cook. Yeah, I mean, it's not. Unfortunately, it's not. It's kind of a thankless position in a way. I love them. I'm a big galley guy. I'm very well known for like always getting breakfast at the galley, and it's an important part of my day. And I also enjoy the networking that you get when you're around the table. But yeah, it's not a glamorous job. All right, so I'm going to jump back onto the questions that I had on my channel. Let's see here, and I'll continue to answer ones if they come in live. Is there a direct commission officer program for reserve for prior enlisted? So in this type of thing, it's everything that's on active is the same on the reserves. So all those same opportunities that you would have on the active side is the same thing. So direct commission for a reserve for prior enlisted would look like it could be if you went warrant. Now this depends on if you're talking about prior enlisted in another service and going to getting your commission upon joining the Coast Guard, or are we talking about like you were enlisted in the Coast Guard and you're going off? So that could make a difference. If we're talking prior enlisted in another service, it would be again the same avenues that you would have on active. Big one is as a lawyer or as a pastor. So if you have credentials in those, if you're already a lawyer, you have a Juris Doctor, you can get a direct commission that way, and you can actually jump straight to lieutenant, so 03. And so that's pretty cool if you can do that. You can also, if you're prior enlisted, you can go warrant. So the rules for that are you have to be an E6 currently in the top 50% for chief. But it's very hard to, I can say from personal experience, I went for warrant when I was still in E6, and it was I didn't get picked up for it. And that was a big sort of point of contention with the master chief who was on my board. And we kept it very respectful, but I was sort of like, well, with all due respect, I meet the requirement. So if it's this much of a concern, maybe you should look at changing that requirement. But beyond that, so for the purposes of the question, going warrant, and then Rocky is the other big one. So reserve officer candidate indoctrination, which is the reserve equivalent of OCS. That one I believe is like only 4 weeks long though. So if you go OCS, I believe is 17 weeks long. So something to keep in mind. Is there another? How do you enlist with a convicted felony? My recruiter is looking into if an expungement will help. From my past experience with trying to enlist years ago, Expungement did not matter. Please help. Wow. I don't know, man. Is so if it's a situation where you're trying to get a waiver of some sort, I assume I mean, a lot of that's going to depend on it. It's so hard these days to give a definitive answer because we're seeing in real time a lot of adjustments being made to, like, the age requirement, for example, is a recent one. They've really kind of expanded. They did away with the COVID vaccine requirement. They're hurting for people. So, I personally, I don't know, like, exactly what the level of the felony was. I hope that you can, work with a recruiter and get something figured out there, because we need people, and I definitely personally believe that people deserve a second chance, and you shouldn't be hammered down by mistakes of your past for the rest of your life. So, but having said that, I don't know the details of the situation, but can you give an idea on workouts, like how much conditioning should you be practicing? Side planks, weapon squats, flutter kicks, push-ups, sit-ups. How many should I be doing in time spent? Okay, this I can talk about. I've actually done a few videos on this topic. The big thing that I always say is working on endurance. So yes, everything you said there, definitely good. Um, do a good mix of workouts and push yourself past your comfort level. That's really the big thing. Is It's the resilience. I mean, obviously, being in good shape is important, but that old adage about, like, throwing somebody in a pool to teach them how to swim, which, by the way, is a horrible. Don't do that. But the idea is, like, you throw somebody in the pool and sink or swim, like, if they'll figure it out. Yeah, don't do that. But the idea is, like, you have to learn how to push through it, and a lot of it is mental. So working out beforehand is definitely good and important, and I mean, you have to, but at a certain point, you have to be able to arrive at this place mentally where you're like, I'm just gonna keep going. And the thing is, it's hard to do that when you're training by yourself, because you don't have that incentive in front of you, which is the company commander, the feet right at your eye level as you're pushing on the deck, helps a lot in terms of that motivation that you need to keep going. So to an extent, it's hard to simulate that on on the outside. But I can just say, push yourself to your limits and try to go a little bit further than you think you can. Planks are really good. Um, yeah, any kind of plank work is definitely really good. You want to strengthen that core, strengthen the shoulders, strengthen those triceps, and yeah, being able to hold firm for a long time will really be helpful, because you'll find that you'll be doing push-ups and they'll tell you to hold, like, at the halfway point, or they'll have you hold it at the top and then go down and then hold it in the down and then hold it in the halfway, like, it's very uncomfortable. So yeah, the one thing I'll say is, I remember when I trained, I ran a lot and I got into pretty good running shape, but we didn't run for the first two 2 or 3 weeks, I think, which was kind of frustrating because I was like, I got into all this great cardio shape and I'm not using it, but I'm using all my strength training. So, but again, I went through a long time ago, so take what I say with a grain of salt. It happened over 15 years ago. I was 20. Breaking and entering with intent to commit a felony. I wrote a moral waiver. Can I please email? Yeah, you can definitely email me. I have a Discord, and I have a, let's see, hold on. I actually, if you give me a second, I'll look it up. I don't know I don't know my own Discord off the top of my head because I never use it unless somebody messages me. I've set it up. I set it up for this channel for this reason. So let me grab that really quick. Um, I might also have the Discord. Actually, you know what? I think I have the Discord listed on my channel. Let me see here. Hold on. Let me see. I don't know. I don't have that, but I will put it in the chat when we finish this. I'll put the Discord, and I also have an Instagram. People message me on there too. I might be able to pull that up quicker. So yeah, I have an Instagram. It's Coast Guard Network. So just all one word. I can write that down really quick. Coast Guard Network. So if you can message me on there too. Yeah, so definitely email me. Be glad to help. I mean, I don't know if to what extent I can help other than just giving moral support. I've been practicing a lot of the nonsense stuff like holding up a water bottle. That's a good one. Actually, that's a really good one. Getting a fake rifle. Been doing all the weapon exercises along with stuffing general orders, and yes, no, that's really good. Actually, I didn't think about that. That's another example of like the yeah studying. That's another example of the that comfort stuff, going beyond your comfort level. I remember it's incredible how hard something can be when you have to hold it up for a really long time, even if it's something really light. I remember doing the water drills where we would have to drink, just 30 seconds chug or whatever, and then invert the bottle over our head. If we had any water left, it would pour all over, and then we would be in trouble because we weren't drinking enough water. Anyway, all right, so let me go back to some of the questions I had here. So yeah, there's some questions for the HS. I did say before I have an HS. When we've been having some trouble finding a time that works for both of us, but I do have an HS. I have an ME, and I got some answers from somebody on the depot stuff. So if you have a depot question, I have what I was planning to do is he didn't have time to do a video with me, but he emailed me answers to a lot of the questions that you all had. So I was gonna basically do a separate video where I read those questions and give the answers. But if any of you have a question on depot, you can ask it, and if I have that as one of my answers, I'll share it here too. But anyway, let's see here. Hello, I'm 36 years old, and I'm getting ready to speak with a recruiter for the Coast Guard Special Forces or Maritime Unit tomorrow. While I ask him about it, I'm in a situation where I'm tired of working regular jobs and would like a different time, and always wanted to join the military. Do active duty get better? Okay, does active duty get better retirement than reserve? Okay. Again, it's the uh, same formula basically, but it's prorated to reserve, like how much time you put in. So yes, active duty gets a better retirement because they're getting more. They put in more time. Like you're getting a portion of the amount of time you put in. So, but the rationale in how you arrive at that retirement is very similar to both. So for active duty, it's 50% at 20 years, raised 2.5% per year up until 30. So that gets you up to 75% at 30 years. So 75% of your highest 3 years of pay. So a lot of times people will, like, if they rank up, they'll try to put in like three more years at that rank to max out their retirement. So that's the baseline for active duty, right? So 50% at 20, 2.5% per year, 75% at 30. Now on the reserves, it's a little bit trickier because we don't just do straight years. We do drills for points. And so our retirement is based off of a point scale. So I did a video on this as well. It's about calculating retirement, but essentially what it is you get 50% at 20 years, but the 50% is of active duty pay. And so if you weren't active duty, it's not going to be 50% of active pay. It's going to be what percentage of active duty did you do, and then half of that. So if that makes sense, essentially it's prorated is the simple way to put it. So the magic number is 7,300 points. So 7,300 points. If you did the math at 365 points a year, so on active you get 1 point per day. So 365 points times 20 gets you 7,300 points. So whatever percentage of 7,300 you do as a reservist, you take that percentage and then you take half of it, and then you multiply that by a half at 0.5, and then you multiply that number by the active pay at whatever rank you were at for your top 3 years. So hopefully that makes sense. But yes, you have the same essential formula, but the active duty retirement is better because you're putting in so much more time. Also, you get to collect right away. You have to wait till you're 60 to collect as a reserve, unless you put in active duty time. So the active duty time you can deduct from 60. So again, it's the same but different because it's just a different amount of time. All right. Okay. How would you describe cutter life? So I don't have a lot of experience on this. I'm a career reservist, so I haven't been on a cutter. So I can only speak through, what I've heard people talk about. It can be rough, especially at the lower ranks. You're a break-in, so you're doing a lot of the grunt work at that level. But yeah, I'm going to work on getting somebody who has a lot of cutter experience to answer, because I've gotten a few questions about that, and I can't give a good answer on that one. How is meeting with a Coast Guard recruiter different from the other branches? I'm planning on enlisting soon, but I am quite weary about recruiters from the online horror stories and from my family. Okay. So I can kind of answer this. I went through, 21 years ago, so it's been a while. I almost joined the Navy. So I had a Navy recruiter, and he was just wanted to be your best friend, just swearing all the time, never wore his uniform, was like, "Hey, what's up, man? We're going to give you $40,000, fucking yeah." And even then my alarm bell, this was like right after 9/11 happened, and it was like, again, like I said about the 65,000, like if someone's trying to give you what sounds too good to be true, then just look into it a little bit. And he seemed like a good guy, but it it really came off like a sales pitch. And then I didn't join the Marines, but my best friend joined the Marines. So I did see him, like, when he did his final, saying goodbye and doing his swearing in, and I saw his recruiter, and his recruiter seemed just very professional, very matter of fact. Now, I wasn't involved in the recruiting process, so I don't know if that's how he was. But the big difference with, at least with the Navy and the Coast Guard, was my Coast Guard recruiter was super chill but very professional. Wouldn't be swearing like that. Always wore her uniform. She was also an MST, which helped me because I was kind of interested in MST anyway. I'm colorblind, so unfortunately my options with ratings is rather limited. So it was nice having a recruiter who was also an MST who could really kind of explain stuff to me. Um, so hopefully that answers the question. I think in general, now again, it's been a while, but I think in general, the Coast Guard's going to be a bit more chill in terms of like we're a little bit more chill in general. Like we're not the Marines, and I don't try to like portray it like we are. So we don't we're military, but we're not known for being the most locked on. So you're not going to get some of the same that you might see from other branches in terms of recruiting. Um, Thank you for your service and the work you do. And YouTube's it's benefited me greatly. That's awesome. I'm really glad to hear that. I mean, that's why I did it, and that's why this channel lay dormant for a long time because I did a couple videos and it got very little response, and I just kind of I'm like, well, I honestly kind of forgot about it, and then I started seeing comments pop up on videos that were like a year or two old. I was like, oh yeah, I did some videos and started answering started answering questions with videos, and that just sort of seemed to snowball into now it's just kind of cool. It's kind of cool formula. Like people ask questions and I answer it with a video, so I know I'm giving something that at least is helping somebody. Um, I know you're reserved, so you might not really know this one, but I know that the Coast Guard recently added a 2-year enlistment contract. Would you suggest that over a 4-year? Not sure if any difference or harder to rank. Um, yeah, no, that's definitely something that I guess I don't know if that's something that you can get in your first enlistment, but it's been that way for a while. Like I had the option to do that after my first initial enlistment. Definitely I mean, the first obvious benefit there is that you can, if you don't like it, you can get out sooner than 4 years. And it's also nice if you're rounding out like you want to do 20 years and you want to just do 2 more years and not do 22. Want to get out of 20, like you have 18 years. So, but would you suggest that over a 4 year? Any differences that are harder to rank? No, not really. I don't think there's any difference at all. I mean, it would only be harder to rank up insofar as you have less time to do it. Assuming you don't reenlist, and also it's kind of a pain in the ass to go through the enlistment process. So if you're really sure you're gonna go more than 2 years, I would probably enlist for more than 2 years. But it's a great option if you're kind of on the fence about it. With wait times on schools, I feel like a lot of time would be spent as a non-rate and would have to re-enlist. Yeah, I mean, I hear that a lot. Some of the wait times are can be pretty long for some of the schools, and that's kind of just goes with the territory, I guess, on that one. I did a video a while back on a school wait times as well, but that fluctuates a lot. Um, Citizen on rate, yeah. Let's see. Do reserves get guaranteed rates, or is it like enlisted start as a non-rate and shadow rate still find one that interests you? Uh, Both, but typically you get guaranteed rates. You could opt to not get a guaranteed rate if you wanted to do that, if you wanted to shadow. But uh, you have to remember that on the reserve side, it's tough to really shadow somebody because, I mean, unless you're coming in for like a 6 month stint nonstop, active, because it's really hard to learn a trade 2 days a month. that's why our training is the same. I mean, we go to A school, we go to the same A school, we do the same boot camp, we do all the same training to qualify for things, all the same requirements. So it would be a challenge, I feel like, to shadow rates, which is maybe that's why they don't. That's typically not the way it happens on the reserve side. In my experience, the vast majority of the time, uh, if you're a reserve, if you're coming in as a reserve, you have a guaranteed A school set up. And that doesn't mean that you're necessarily going to get the A school right away. You still may have to wait, but because the reserves is such a smaller service, I mean, in terms of personnel, we have about 7,000 people. Um, we have a little bit more wiggle room to do that, and a lot of times they'll have A school classes and C school classes set aside uh, for reserves. So let's see if I have any more questions on here. Okay, this is an interesting one. So somebody asked, do they still do morning PT at Cape May? We used to have 3 minutes from the time they turned on the lights in the squad bay and started yelling until we had to be in formation outside on the quadrangle. Then we do push-ups, jumping jacks, squat, thrust, and other exercises, and then run a mile. So again, it's been a very long time since I've gone through, so I'm probably not the best qualified to answer if they still do morning PT. I would I would wager a guess that the answer is yes, they do. But it's been a little while since I've been through. Do reservists get BHA loans for housing? Loans? I'm assuming this means BAH. I'm assuming that's what that means. Reservists get BAH, basic allowance for housing. Yes. So, as with pretty much everything else, it's all the same when we're on active duty. So, like right now, I'm getting BAH right now. So, yes, you do. It's based on your home of record. So, on the reserve side, it can get interesting because if you're deployed somewhere, the idea with the BAH is you're getting a subsidy to the cost of your house for your. A lot of times it's like for your spouse because you're not there supporting them in person, but you're still working obviously somewhere else. But you get a subsidy towards the cost of living where you live. So on the reserve side, it's interesting because a lot of times we live far, far away. I live like 700 miles from my home. That's why, I mean, I don't from my home. I work 700 miles from where I live. That's why I'm in a hotel room right now when I'm on orders. So it's a little different in that sense. But yeah, you get a BAH. Let's see. Got another question here. Is the general rule of thumb if the bonus is 15K or more, there's a reason with the rate? Because I was looking at OS has a 20K bonus, but feel I need to do more research now to make sure. Hey, I mean, I OS is like the I don't want to say cult, but they're like the mystery of the Coast Guard. They're off in the command center behind locked, closed doors, and we never see them, and they tend to be kind of the elusive rate. So I don't really know a whole lot about OSs, but I mean, I don't hear like the negative connotations with them like I do with CSs. So I would definitely look into it. I mean, if that's cool. Like that's a good bonus. I don't know if there's a high turnover rate. There's not a whole lot of OSs in general. I don't know if that's because it's a high turnover rate or it might be because it's a higher testing scores required to get in. So um, I look at the bonus. Pretty much every rate is like 20,000. Oh wow, that's interesting. Um, yeah, I mean that makes sense. The Coast Guard's hurting right now for recruitment, so and that's one of the things that came up in my Q&A with my friend who went through Depot. He mentioned that, and this was actually he went through a long 9 years ago. So, but even then, he said that they were struggling and they were making concessions to get people in. I got a $4,000 bonus, so I'm feeling kind of I'm feeling kind of sad seeing kind of some of these numbers. I got a 4K bonus for MST, and I saw 40% of that. I don't even think it was half, but this was a while ago too. But yeah, I mean, take what you can get. But make sure at the end of the day, I mean, you got to make sure it's what the job is what you want to do. Money only goes so far. Hope all is well. I'm aiming for the IT rate. Do you have any recommendations for the ASVAB as I take that next week? And I've been studying quite a bit. Yeah, the ASVAB. For me, I really felt like the ASVAB was like a high school exit exam, and I honestly like I didn't do really great in high school, but a lot of that was just laziness and not taking things that seriously. But I did pretty well on the ASVAB, um, and even the math I did pretty well. Which again I didn't really do well at math in high school, but I think it's a lot of it is just good, good reading skills. If you can, it wasn't calculus math. I mean, it was just sort of like basic algebra type stuff. So, if I don't know if you're in high school right now, but if you're in high school or if you like recently graduated, um, think about how you did in high school. Like what did you thrive at and what did you struggle with? And maybe kind of tailor your studying to that. But yeah, I think lean nerd. I mean, with a name like that, it sounds like you're pretty smart. So you'll probably do fine. Um, what about tuition assistance? Do reserves get them? And how long after boot camp do you get it if you go to school? So yes, they do, and we actually lost it for a long time. They got they we had tuition assistance when I went through college, which was nice. I was able to use it, and then they got rid of it, and then they eventually brought it back. So yeah, it's right now it's 4,500 a year capped, and that's what it was almost 20 years ago when I used it. So I guess it hasn't adjusted for inflation. Um, but yeah, you can get it, and you can get it right after boot camp. I mean, you don't have to the key with tuition assistance is not how much time you've put in; it's how much time you have remaining. You have to be committed through the entire time that you're using TA, and you have to have like a year or two um, commitment of enlistment, like following whenever you stop using it. So, which kind of makes sense. I mean, they don't want people just jumping in, using TA, and then getting out. So, but yeah, you can get it, definitely, and you don't have to wait a long time. Is reserves in college doable? Will they get activated? I can't answer this. I can qualify for this one. That was me. So I did my first year of junior college, and then I joined the reserves. I went to boot camp, and then I did my next year of college, and then the next summer I went to A school. So yes, you definitely can. I didn't get activated. I mean, you always can. Like, I can't promise you that you won't get activated. I didn't. Um, in my time in the Coast Guard, I've only been involuntarily activated once. And I'm an MST. Like we, that was Deepwater Horizon. That was a big spill, obviously. So, and I've volunteered for quite a few, but and I guess it depends on the rating, but it's not like you don't get called every night to come down. So you definitely can do it. Um, and you have ESGR on your side, employer support of the Guard and Reserve, and you have rights, as a reservist. So like if you had to cancel or drop a class for military obligations, they would be able to refund you. They would have to make sure to make fair concessions to work with that. see. I'd like to be an AMT working the hoist on the 60 or 65. I had the ASVAB score, an AMT, and went through the A school. Do you get to pick what you do as an AMT? Again, I don't have a lot of personal experience with this one. Unfortunately, the color vision is another. That's another one of the ones you can't do with being colorblind. I can't really give a well-informed answer on this, but other than to say, they're going to put you in what fits with your training and what fits with your skill set. So the kind of general answer I can say is make it known to your supervisor if there's things that you want to do that you're not doing. Try to get opportunities to practice that. It's even like with like interning, see if you can cross train and go to another department and shadow somebody over there. We definitely encourage that in the MST world. That's a big thing. They will frequently move MSTs around to neighboring departments to get qualifications in different areas because we want to have a good, robust, knowledgeable rating. Let's see. OS is 40,000. Wow. As I work out regularly, getting my mind and body prepared, do you have any further recommendations for boot camp? I mean, it sounds like you're on your way. I mean, that's great that it's one of those things where it's like you think about, like, I worry about being a bad parent sometimes, and I think that keeps me from being a bad parent. So I think that I think you'll be good. Further recommendations for boot camp. I mean, remember that, like, that's the point, is for you to kind of fall on your ass and for them to like break you down. Like, that's supposed to happen. So when it does, don't let it bother you too much. It's very easy to be disheartened. There were definitely times when I was like really questioning my my life choices, and you have to be able to compartmentalize. And I think knowledge is power, like they say. And I think that you don't want to jinx yourself. Like, I don't want to say like, oh, it's just going to suck ass and you're going to hate it, and just be prepared for that, because I'm not trying to put negative thoughts in your head. But like, you have to anticipate some of those challenges that are going to happen, and just roll with it. And sometimes that's easier said than done, but you'll be amazed at how your body adapts and adjusts to what's being demanded of you. Deepwater Horizon was definitely crazy. It was so unprecedented from a marine safety oil spill response, because that's what I was there for. And I mean, we were seeing the equivalent of a major discharge happening not even every day, every hour. So yeah, it was crazy. Don't forget to enjoy yourself. Yeah, no, that's true. Yeah, and I know Jennifer. I remember you. I think you went through a while ago. I think. I don't want to age you, but I think you went through before I did. Uh, so yes, listen to her. That's true. Enjoy yourself. Try to focus on the camaraderie. Try to focus on. That was a big part of it for me. Like, I'm not a really big, strong, athletic guy, so I didn't have like the experience of being on a football team in high school, but it kind of had that feel. It had that feel of like having a team that, we were all there for each other and we all supported each other. And that goes a long way, having those relationships with people. Um, Harman GPS watch be taken to depot? Um, I think they take everything from you, but I don't. I don't know. Honestly, well, no. I guess I had a watch in boot camp. Um, I don't know enough about that type of watch. I unless there's something about it that like would give you an unfair advantage, which I don't see how that would be the case. But unless they think it's going to allow you to figure out a way to get off the island or something. But yeah, I don't think that would be an issue. What do you think of damage control men? Good people. I don't know a lot of them. It, in the MST world, we don't really work closely with a lot of other rates. Um, although interestingly enough, I'm about to transfer to a new unit where I will be, for the first time in my career, we'll be working with all different ratings, not just MSTs. So I'll circle back to that one in a month or so and see if I can answer that better. Will I have time to call my girlfriend and back home? Yes. Again, that's going to depend on the company commander, I think. But when I went through the first time we were able to call, well, you call home the night that you get there, from the airport, I think, and then at 4 weeks we did the pistol course, and if you qualified, they let you call home. So I got a 5-minute call that day, and then you get to call like I think like week 6. Was it week 5 or week 6? Somewhere around there, you get your orders to your first duty station, so you can call to tell about that. And then I think like week 7, you call to give them your details of graduation and travel and stuff like that. But it's not a lot. I mean, you're not going to get a lot of time for that. 86. Yeah, I thought it was the 80s, but then I was like, I don't want to say it and be wrong. But yeah, no, that's awesome. That's so cool to me to connect with other people that have gone through it too, because it's it's like any kind of networking, right? I mean, I can't know everything, and I can't. There's a lot of stuff I can't answer, so I like having other people who can chime in as well. You write letters, you get phone around week 6 from one. Yeah, that's how I remember it. I remember we did it one time in week 4, and then I thought it was like week 6. Let's see. Wow, I'm getting a lot more questions than I thought I was gonna get. I thought I was gonna answer like a few on here and be out of here. I have to actually go to bed soon, so I might have to cut this off soon. But let's see here. Um, I'm confident in my abilities to do well in AST school and training with Stu Smith for a while to get into swimming shape, and especially swimming shape. Do you know any ASTs yourself? Um, no, it's funny though that you mentioned that, because I was just having a conversation the other day I, about the what if of like being an AST. I can't count it as a regret because I'm colorblind, so I can't be an AST. But that's always like something I wonder about, because I was a pretty strong swimmer in high school myself. So I kind of always thought that would have been cool. Um, but I don't know any. But let me know how that goes. That's awesome. Um, that you're doing that. Yeah, that's really cool. Um, I have a desire to grow within IT and within the Coast Guard. What would be your recommendation in terms of personal and career growth? Do you pick your orders? I've heard they somewhat can um, within IT. Oh, you just mean in general. Okay, Coast Guard in general. recommendation in terms of personal and career growth. Do you pick your orders? So on the reserve side, um, it's a little different because on the reserve side, you more or less can choose where you go. They put you close to home. I mean, within reason. I'm kind of far from home, but uh, typically until you make it up through E6, when you make chief, it starts to get a little bit more dicey because there's less of them and there's less billets for them, so they kind of put you where they need you. But if you're talking about the active side, you don't get to pick your orders per se, but you get a dream sheet where you can put down your top three, I think it is, and they'll try to they'll try to match you as best they can within the needs of the service. I do know there's certain situations where like you could take on like Kodiak. I don't know. I'm not sure if it's Kodiak, but there's like Alaska billets where you can go do like, you know, 12-hour shifts for 6 days a week for a year, but then you get absolute choice in your next tour. So you can do things like that. But it's personal and career growth. I mean, just try to, I mean, just like with anything else, try to find something that you enjoy and that, challenges you in a positive way and just thrive. Um, I'm about to sign a reserve contract. The ME spot 20 minutes from me is not available. The next one available is 5 hours away. Would you say take it and then transfer later? Is it easy to transfer? Um, if you're going in as are you going in straight out of boot camp, like an ME3, it should be relatively easy. I don't want to say like 100% because that's kind of a long way, 5 hours. So I don't want to disappoint you if like you can't, but um, uh, so if you have a guaranteed A school or you are going to be able to go to an A school in a reasonable amount of time, I would I would take it. And yeah, I mean you could try to transfer. Um, so use direct access to um, monitor like billets. So you go into it's called PCSE resume, and you can search by your rating and even like geographic area, and you can look for openings that way. And so if you find something, you can try to request a transfer there. They also have this thing called the FlexPal, so Reserve FlexPal, where if you've been at a unit for what's considered like a tour, like your tour complete, then they make it really easy to transfer without having to wait for transfer season. So some of these questions could be like full video answers. So I'm kind of winging it. Besides the in test for swimming, how much swimming do you do in boot camp? Mm, I mean, if someone could chime in if they've been in more recently, but not a whole lot, not as much as you might think. We did the initial swim test to like make sure that we can swim, and and we went a couple times for workouts. But actually, I feel like we swam more in MSTA school than we did in boot camp. I remember doing some like really good kind of heavy swim classes at an MSTA school. Um, okay, travel reimbursements for travel for drill. So currently there's not, which is annoying. Um, we don't get covered for travel. We do get put up in a barracks or in a hotel. We don't have to pay for that, which is nice. And we get paid for food, but we don't get paid for travel. But they are working on that. They're working on that, and they'll probably have that worked out after I've retired. But they are working on that. But unfortunately, right now they don't pay you for travel, but they do pay you for travel on active duty. So I got covered for this because I'm doing active, but not for your normal drill. Okay, another cutter question. I'm gonna I'm going to put these cutter questions um, on the to answer list, and I'm going to try to find somebody who can give me some better answers for those. All right. Rescue Swimmer Mindset has a good channel for the AST rate. Okay, good to know. How would it go if you ever wanted to switch your rate down the line? Um, it all depends. I mean, it all depends on the needs of the service, honestly. But some rates are a little more in need, and some rates are kind of overbilleted. So yeah, it's going to depend. But I mean, anything's possible. Like if you're just wondering, like if you can do it, you definitely can. It's just I can't give like a clear cut answer on how it would go. Um, all right, I'm gonna do these. I'm gonna do these last two questions, and then I'm gonna sign off. I'm getting a little tired. You might be able to tell. Um, and I actually have a big. So I have a retirement on this. I have a retirement this weekend that I'm emceeing. I've never like led a retirement before, so I actually was like the main planner for this thing, and it's actually been kind of crazy. And I'm gonna be really grateful when it's done. I also happen to be in SoCal, where Tropical Storm Hillary is apparently about to hit. So I'm hoping that doesn't affect my flight out of here on Sunday. Um, how often do people get reverted? Not a lot. Um, not. I mean, I don't know exact percentage, but I would say maybe like 10-ish%. We had. I'd say that's about right in terms of we people that we lost, people that we gained. Um, but it's not. I mean, it's not the end of the world if it does happen. Um, you know, it might, but it's okay. I've seen that on the show Coast Guard Alaska. It's very hard to do, but if you're an E3, oh, you're answering somebody else's question. Awesome. Okay, cool. Well, I thank you all for being here. I was pleasantly surprised to get all this interaction. That was really cool. I wasn't expecting that. I was going to just answer some pre chosen questions, but this is cool too. So yeah, good talking to you all, and I will be in touch, and I've got some good topics coming up to do more videos on. So we'll catch you all again soon. Take care.